everyone, welcome to the first episode of BillyBoy Looks Back. This is the first time I've ever attempted to do video blogging. I'm very nervous here, but my family and friends always say, you know what, you always go on these crazy rants talking about movies. You really need to do video blogging. So I always used to writing, but we're going to try to do it as an audio commentary. I guess it's really not video because I would be nervous on camera. And here's the irony. I'll start off a little bit about myself. I have a background in film and video. Actually, I have a degree in film and video from Columbia in Chicago. So I'm well familiar with the film and video industry. I'm very familiar with the art of film. I just don't feel comfortable behind the camera. Well, in front of the camera. Behind the camera, I'm fine. But I'm more of a guy that's like a backseat critic. So I always wanted to do this. We're going to get rolling here. This first one's going to go about 5 minutes. I'm going to introduce a little bit about what this concept is. Every time I come here, I'll be doing a different movie, be kind of themed events, and we're going to have some fun. For the first one in February, I'm proud to announce that I'm a member of the Razzies for the very first time. For those not familiar with that, the Razzies is the worst movie awards ever. It's kind of a parallel to the Oscars. They make fun of like movies that suck and just give them like worst picture, worst actor, worst director. And the fun thing about that is that it's really like unofficial, and I've had disputes over the years with some of the awards they've given it. They're giving it away for like, you know, they hate certain actors, so they're going to give a worst award because they hate this person rather than the film actually being terrible, person's performance being terrible. And some of the things I object to is they give like awards to a documentary because I don't like the person that the movie covers. Like, oh, we hate Condoleezza Rice, so we're just going to award her worst actress, which is stupid. I don't agree with that. But, you know, it really is not anything like political bias. If it was going to do the same thing and say we're going to give Hillary worst actress, I disagree with that too. I don't agree with it. But let's get rolling here with the Razzies. So the first one we're doing today, as you can see from that overview on the screen, is Death Wish. If you're not familiar with Death Wish, this is actually a remake. The original film came out in 1974. It's a classic film. I wish more people would go and see it. That's a great movie. It's kind of like I'd say a cult classic. It's kind of a cool movie. If you don't know anything about the plot, basically it's this guy. It was this mild-mannered architect. He just like went trying to live his life on was really like a low-key guy, and his wife is violently murdered and his daughter is raped by this gang of thugs. So the guy snaps and he goes on like a vigilante revenge killing spree. That's the original film. There was a lot of controversy in this remake because in the remake they cast Bruce Willis, and people were like, no, Bruce Willis is an action star. We can't buy this guy as a mild-mannered architect. I kind of agree with that. I can see where they're going with that that wouldn't really work. But when I watched the movie, now that I've seen it, I saw it like about a month ago. It's the first one I watched. I wasn't really going to be a judge on the Razzies at the time, but now I'm going to be watching all these films. But anyway, Bruce Willis' performance in this movie is actually very good. They changed so he's not an architect, he's a doctor, he's a medical doctor. And of course, when his wife gets brutally murdered like that, he is, has to be, emotionally attached to this event. He's used to seeing people in the hospital or gunshot victims, and he comes face to face with it. They also updated where it's like, when he goes on a killing spree, they're like, it ends up being uploaded to YouTube like I'm doing right now. It becomes a social media sensation. It's kind of cool because he goes in like these ghetto neighborhoods. And like, what was this guy that was going on a killing spree? Like, oh, it was a white guy in a hoodie, and it's like white guy in a hoodie, angel of death. It becomes like, goes viral, and it was like, yeah. So I enjoyed that aspect of the movie. I'm going to say compared to the original Death Wish, it's not as good, and very few remakes are, so I can't really fault it for that. I do think it's decent, but I'd recommend seeing the original film, which is, in my opinion, much darker, grittier, more serious, and this movie was kind of sanitized. I think in comparison it wasn't as good. Now I go online and, like I said, it's been nominated for worst movie, and it's getting like terrible reviews. Okay, the movie's not terrible, and here's my problem with the reviews. The critics basically hate it because of the subject matter. Not that it has to do with like a killing spree. I mean, we get that all the time in Hollywood. They think the movie's like pro-gun propaganda, like this whole movie's like funded by the NRA or something. Now, I'll be honest, if you watch the original 1974 Death Wish, I think that is, you can make a good case the movie is very pro-gun in its message. If it actually has a social message, I think it's kind of like when it came out in the 70s. That was really what, not directly, but I think that it certainly could take that away from the movie. The remake, I really don't think that. I mean, I'm looking at this movie, and I'm used to seeing propaganda on both sides, and I will call it out when it happens. from my own point of view, I am consider myself very conservative, as you will find out. But I don't think that this is that kind of movie, because when you look at films like, if you watch, I'll give you an example. When they had the one about killing in Mexico, where they had the massacre of the Catholic Church, that was for greater glory. I love the movie, but this is pro-Catholic propaganda. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It definitely, the whole movie, you're like, oh, these poor priests are all getting slaughtered, and it's definitely very heavy-handed on that. And you watch a movie like John Q, and it's like, okay, this movie is definitely universal health care. That's what they're promoting. I don't see that in Death Wish. I see, it has an idea of this guy. I think it's too far-fetched so you could actually see this happening in real life, and I think that people were upset because of the timing. Like, oh, this movie timing came out terrible, and shouldn't have done this now with all the guns happening in real life. But the way it happens in the movie, I don't think mirrors any of the incidents I've seen in real life at all. So I take away from that I think Hollywood's just taking a movie that was kind of well known at the time for its concept, and they figure, well, nobody's really seen the '74 movie; it's kind of forgotten, so they're gonna update it. With me and remakes, you'll find out I originally am against remakes. I justify it; it's okay for two reasons. Number one, the original movie is just too dated; it's really not accessible to today's audiences. Or number two, it was an adaptation of a classic story, and the original book or whatever is finally remember the source material, but the original adaptation of that failed miserably, and it's time to give it a second chance and do a faithful adaptation that really does justice to the original. In the case of Death Wish, you could probably make a good case that unfortunately the 1974 movie is kind of forgotten, and like I said, I think that's unfortunate. I wish more people would watch that. So my initial reaction on this one, looking back at it, I certainly would not give it a Rozzy. I think it was decent. There was one review from Nicholas Sale, and I think he's pretty much on tune with his reviews. When in this case, he said that it's probably the second best Death Wish movie out there because the sequels were all garbage, and it's a fun movie in its own right. It just doesn't compare to the original, which I'm kind of with that. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised by Bruce Willis. I do agree that the casting seemed like it wouldn't work. It's just, he always plays action stars, but his performance in this movie is good, and I would definitely say check it out. So that's just an overview look at Death Wish. The ones we'll be doing for the rest of the month are Gotti, The Happy Time Murders, Death Nation, which, again, it's a documentary. I don't agree with that being nominated. Same thing with Fahrenheit 11/9, not because they hate Michael Moore, because the opposite, they hate people in the movie. Oh, we're going to rip on this movie because we hate Donald Trump, which, again, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but it's stupid to award something like that, so I definitely will not be voting for that. Winchester, which will be coming up next week, so check that out. Actually, next week. I should say tomorrow, not next week. 50 Shades Freed. I haven't seen the first two. The remake of Robin Hood. Again, we've already been where I'm at with remakes. Sherlock Gnomes. Holmes and Watson. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. It actually was nominated just for Worst Supporting Actress, not the movie as a whole, but that category. London Fields, again, Worst Actress. Peppermint, Worst Actress. Show Dogs was nominated for Worst Supporting Actor. Slender Man, Worst Actress. And Clapper, Worst Actress nominee. And The Meg was nominated for Worst Prequel, Remake, Rip-Off, or Sequel. And I think that people don't take these awards seriously, so very few of the judges, if you can call us that, actually watch these movies, but you really should. If you're going to award something worst movie, you should objectively look at it and say, yeah, this was the worst performance I've seen of the year, or yeah, this is the worst cinematography of the year. And I think if they're going to mirror the Oscars, they should kind of go back to that. I like kind of the fun categories like worst prequel, sequel, rip-off, or remake, but they should really go back to like worst song, worst cinematography, worst editing. They don't really have that this year, and they used to in the past. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. The Rozzies, this is their 39th year. They've been around since 1980, so when we get done with that, we're going to have some fun, and we have a lot of themed events. Like later, we're going to do presidential movies, because of course February is President's Day, so watch some of those. So anyway, let me know what you think of my first broadcast. Looking forward to your feedback, and certainly this will evolve over the years. We're going to get better and better, but I hope this is a good first attempt, and looking forward to sharing more reviews with you guys. So that is me signing off. I'll see you guys later. Bye.